Now 9:35, and a quorum of the board is present. State Board of Education meeting of December 10th, 2019 is called to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of agenda in order of priority. Are there any items board members would like to add or delete from the agenda? Hearing none, may I please have a motion to approve the agenda in order of priority?
So moved.
Moved by President Ulbrich, seconded by Dr. Pritchett. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. This time, Marilyn will introduce the members of the State Board of Education.
Good morning. I'm Marilyn Schneider. I'm the State Board Executive, and to my left, you've just been listening to Dr. Michael Rice. He's the State Superintendent. He also serves as Chair of the State Board of Education. Going around the table, Dr. Cassandra Ulbrich is the Board's President, and she resides in Dearborn. Pamela Pugh is the Board's Vice President. She resides in Saginaw. She's on her way. Michelle Fecto, the Board Secretary, resides in Detroit. She's on her way. Nikki Snyder is from Dexter. She's a board member. Tiffany Tilley is from Southfield. She represents the board on the National Association of State Boards of Education. She's also a board member. This year's Teacher of the Year is Kara Lawheed. She is in Rochester Community Schools teaching English Language Arts and History at Stony Creek High School when she's not here at the board table with us. Across the table, you'll see a nameplate for Josh Nayert. He represents the governor, who has an ex officio seat on the State Board of Education. And going around the table, Dr. Judith Pritchett. She is from Washington Township, board member. Board member Ms. Lupe Ramos Montini from Grand Rapids. Next to me, the board's treasurer, Mr. Tom McMillan. He's from Oakland Township. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Kiesler, I believe you have a new employee to introduce.
Good morning, everyone. Johnson Samuel, can you stand up and introduce yourselves to the group?
Yeah, my name is Johnson Samuel. I have a new financial analyst, John, in the Michigan Education of Education, Office of Education Support, Financial Unit. I'm looking after the title grants for allocation programs. I just moved from Dubai. I was working there for the last 3 years, working in the same education field, and I
Thank you. Did we miss any new employees in the room? Okay, hearing none, thank you and welcome. If you plan to offer public comment at today's meeting, please complete a form and get it to Marilyn. Forms are available on the table just outside the boardroom, and they must be submitted prior to the beginning of the portion of the meeting devoted to public comment. Public comment will begin immediately following the lunch break at approximately 1 p.m. Please be here at that time to make sure that you have an opportunity to comment. First item on the board agenda is adoption of the resolution honoring Mr. Russ Clark as Michigan's 2019 Education Support Staff Professional of the Year. Deputy Superintendent Kyle Garant had the honor of announcing the recipient to the 2019-2020 Education Support Professional of the Year on December 3rd, 2019. He and Ms. Lupe Ramos Montini traveled to Rockford Public Schools to present the award to Mr. Russ Clark, a bus driver in the district. Welcome and congratulations to Mr. Clark and his guests. We will meet them in a few minutes. Staff will begin the presentation by sharing more about the award and surprise announcement. The presentation will be facilitated by Dr. Kiesler, Deputy Superintendent of Educator, Student, and School Supports, Ms. Leah Breen, Director of the Office of Educator Excellence, and Ms. Jennifer Robel, Manager of the Recruitment and Recognition Unit in the Office of Educator Excellence. Ladies. Good morning.
As Dr. Rice said, my name is Jennifer Robel. I'm a manager in the Office of Educator Excellence, and I oversee the recruitment and recognition programs. Today is a special day. The gentleman sitting behind me is very humble, so I'm not sure if there will be words coming from him later. He struggled a little bit after the announcement, so just be prepared for that. The Education Support Staff Professional of the Year was brought to the Michigan Department of Education this year through a partnership between AFSCME, AFT Michigan, and MEA. Brett Smith from MEA is here. Brett, if you want to stand up. With the support of these organizations, the MDE received 255 nominations in a 3-week period, with a very short turnaround, of exceptional education support staff professionals. These support staff professionals were recognized for their effective work in and out of the classroom, in the buildings, in the district, and in the community. The 2019 Education Support Staff Professional of the Year is Mr. Russ Clark. Mr. Clark is a bus driver in the Rockford Public Schools District. He has the privilege of transporting primary and secondary special needs, and boy, do they love him, as you'll see in a minute. Mr. Clark often attends their events at school and is known for going above and beyond to make sure they know they are valued members of the community. Mr. Clark is known for his Wednesday treats and for making each student's birthday special by getting them a gift, as well as putting together holiday treat bags, which he funds out of his own pocket. And when a student isn't feeling well, Mr. Clark sends them a get well card. His concern for his school community goes beyond ensuring that all students have a positive experience. He checks in with school staff before getting started on his route and is constantly offering to lend a hand in the bus garage. Mr. Clark has been described as an exemplary teammate who works with other school staff for the betterment of students and the families, colleagues, and their district. Now let's watch the video. So this one is a little different this year because usually we don't tell the winners who nominated them, but the nominator is a second grade teacher, fourth grade teacher in the district, and her daughter was actually in the blue, the sparkly, and she was just squealing when Mr. Clark was announced. So Russ, if you didn't know, it was Beth.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much for the video, and congratulations to Mr. Clark. May I please have a motion to adopt the resolution honoring Mr. Russ Clark as Michigan's 2019 Education Support Staff Professional of the Year? Ms. Lupe Ramos Montini, second by Ms. Fecto. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, unsurprisingly. Ms. Roble.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to the 2019 Education Support Staff Professional of the Year, Mr. Clark.
Mr. Clark, come on up here.
Thank you.
Sorry, we were just saying that this one gets us. So,
Congratulations. We'll let you say a few words, and then we'll give you a couple plaques, okay?
Well, I didn't know it was Beth. So. I would like to thank Beth Walla for nominating me for the award and to everyone here for being part of this process. I am honored and will always cherish this award. My promise to you, and more importantly to my parents of my students, I will always perform my job to the highest standards this award represents. My fellow bus drivers, mechanics, management staff at Rockford Public Schools, you've always been there for me when I needed you. Thank you. To my parents, you trusted me with your most precious treasures. I am honored. You kept the lines of communications open so I could make your children's bus ride as enjoyable as possible. To my kids, I love you from my heart to yours. I love you.
So that's one, and we throw a party here.
Normally, I would shake your hand, but as you can tell, I have a cough, and I don't want you taking that back to your kids. So instead, I am just going to pat you on the back and say, on behalf of the State Board of Education, we are very honored to be presenting you with this award. Thank you for your service and for everything that you do for kids in your district. Clearly, they love you, and we appreciate it.
We have a third as well for your third hand.
Excuse me. Thank you.
We have one for, do we have a representative of the district besides Mr. Clark?
yes,
Assistant Superintendent here?
Corey
Come on back.
Wilson Crawford.
Okay. And we have that for the district as a whole.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Please give my regards to Mr. Schott.
I absolutely
Okay.
will.
Mr. Clark, congratulations. You did it. Thank you.
Board members, do you want to join them for a photo?
You're in the middle. Go ahead.
Okay.
Let me up there with them.
We're gonna need to.
Elsie will grab the pictures. Here we go.
All right. I'm wearing heels too.
Want us to talk more?
Nope, I got it. Thank you, Dr. Rice. Take a couple. Cheese. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Getting close to that crew cut that I'm dreaming about.
Dr. Rice, I just wanted to let everybody know that Mr. Clark will be honored on the House and Senate floor today at 1:30 by state senators and representatives, and that's a huge honor. And then also, I just want to take one more moment to thank the three organizations that partnered with us, AFSCME, AFG Michigan, and MEA. Without them and their staff people who helped me with this project, and my staff people, and Dr. Kiesler and Mrs. Breen, it was an honor and a privilege, so thank you.
Well, I want to thank you for your leadership as well, because you coordinated this with our partners, and that's a big job. 255 nominees across the state. Not easy to coordinate that. What we know from 255 nominations is that there's a lot of support for our support staff across the state who do wonderful things for our young people, bus drivers, mechanics, paraprofessionals, food service employees, secretaries, custodians. They're getting it done in our schools as our teachers and our principals are every day. And so we appreciate all of these employees who make it happen for 1.5 million school kids every year.
And Chief Deputy Alice went above and beyond in several different ways that we don't need to talk about, so.
Always does.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
The next item on the Committee of the Whole agenda is the update on accountability systems. Michigan Department of Education continues to work on implementing the statewide system of accountability with letter grades, ranking labels specified by Public Act 601 of 2018, adopted on December 28, 2018, during the lame duck session. This is our final meeting on PA 601. Dr. Vanessa Kiesler, Deputy Superintendent of Educator, Student and School Supports, and Mr. Chris Janzer, Assistant Director, Office of Educational Assessment and Accountability, will be our presenters. This is interactive. It's not simply a presentation. It's a presentation accompanied by board discussion, and ultimately whatever decisions the board cares to make today. Dr. Kiesler, Mr. Janzer, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Rice. So as Dr. Rice said, this is our final of a series of conversations with the board. Our brief recap of where we've been: PA 601 was passed in December of 2018. We began our months of discussions with the U.S. Department of Education to understand to what extent PA 601 could meet the requirements of ESSA. By May 2019, it was clear that from USDOE that the state system could not meet those requirements. We escalated our design efforts. In July, the legislatively required peer review panel was nominated by Governor Whitmer, and the MDE began discussing the A to F system with the Board of Education with a specific focus on those elements that allowed decision-making discretion. And that's where we've had lovely conversation together for the past few months. I know you all enjoyed this presentation more than any of them. It's definitely better than the one before where people are happy and getting awards and honoring their work building, right? This was really what you came for. Where are we now? The state board has reviewed the initial A to F work and provided some decisions and feedback to the MDE. We've done decisions over 2 board meetings. The MDE and the state board have reviewed the recommended cut scores from that standard recommending committee, the report of the legislatively required peer review panel. And so these slides are representing the board's input and proposed cut scores. And just a bit more recap, in November, you voted on 3 ranking label categories and 2 of the 5 grades. So today, we are starting with the remaining 3 of the 5 grades, and those are comparison to similar schools, proficiency, and growth. So for the comparison to similar schools grade, remember this is the grade, every school receives a grade comparing it to a set of schools who are similar to them on their proficiency in math and ELA. They're compared on their proficiency in math and ELA with schools who are similar to them. Sorry, I said put my clauses in the wrong order. The board has had lots of good discussion with the department regarding that matching methodology. What does it mean to be a similar school to you? And we have, at this point, are proposing changing the matching methodology from that currently used in the parent dashboard to this one, which is most heavily weighted on free lunch, 70% free lunch, and that is not economically disadvantaged or free reduced lunch. It's a more narrow definition of poverty than some of those broader definitions. 20% of the weight based on the FTEs of students with disabilities. So you find schools with similar FTEs of students with disabilities, match on that. And then 10% just student FTE overall. So you're comparing to some degree schools of similar sizes. Using that matching methodology, so again, the way it works, we don't have these slides in here right now, but the way it works is you find the schools who are most similar to you based on those characteristics, and then you compare their proficiency to the average, and you get a Z-score, really is what this is. So Z-scores, 3 is very, very much above average, a -3 is extremely below average, but in practice, most Z-scores go from 1 to -1. That's where the bulk of them lie. So if you have a Z-score of 0, it says you're no different than the average. You're right at average. Based on that, the recommended cut scores are as follows. The recommended cut scores are as follows. So an A would be a z-score above or equal to 0.89. 0.48 to 0.89 would be a B. Negative 1.5 to 0.48 would be a C. Negative 0.84 to negative 0.15 would be a D. And below negative 0.84 would be an F. And using those distributions, we would have approximately 30% of schools receiving either an A or a B, approximately a third receiving a C, and the remaining 45% or so receiving a D or an F. Dr. Rice, would you like to discuss them as we go or keep going?
I think we ought to discuss them one by one. They are involved, they're complicated, and I think it would provide the board maximum opportunity to ask questions and to make comments. Is that comfortable for our board? Okay, good. Any questions or comments at this time about comparison to similar schools? President Albrecht.
So just to be clear, so what we're saying is if you have school 1 and you have school 2 and they have the similar demographics based on what we've said, you get an A because you're both at the same level regardless of what that level is.
In that group, you'd look at what the average of the group is of those similar schools. And then if you were above that average, you'd get an A. If you were at the average, you'd get a B or a C, you know.
So the average is determined by how many schools you can find that are similar to you based on these demographics.
It's determined by the performance of the schools who are similar to you. So of the 30 in the category, I mean, this is the point of matching with similar schools, that 30 schools very dissimilar from you might have a very different average.
Right.
So it's trying to say, based on some things we know that matter, how are you overperforming or underperforming what we would expect, is another way to say it.
But expectation is not part of this. It's simply what is, it's basically, I guess my point is, what the hell is this telling us?
Yeah.
I don't, it's, that's what I'm trying to get to. Like, I'm not understanding, so you can get an A because you're all at the same level, but that doesn't mean that you're performing well. It just means that you're all performing the same.
I think the theory behind this, and this has been an idea that's been around, there's been proponents of it in different organizations around the state for several years. I think it comes out of the idea that when you look at just raw proficiency, for example, you say, what's your percent proficient? That's really correlated with economic disadvantage, it's correlated with a number of things. And so it's not fair to compare these two schools. So this is meant to get at, okay, fine,
Right.
you overall are not at 90% proficient, but you're at 50% proficient. And with schools who look like you, their average is 30. So you're doing great at 50% proficient.
Okay, I agree. I'm just trying to make it clear what it is we're actually
Thank you. I appreciate that.
measuring
I think
here.
we've had so many detailed conversations
Right.
about this that I appreciate you reorienting us to like the big picture for a minute. That's helpful. Thanks.
Other, Ms. Vecto?
Just so but you're saying they're graded A and B. So are you saying that once you divide them out into these groups and then you compare them within those groups, you would end up with 30% having an A or a B
Roughly. Yeah.
and 45% being a D and an F?
Yeah, I did my math a little bit quickly. It would be more specifically at these cuts, 28% getting a D and 18% getting an F. So those are schools who are performing worse than you would expect, or than group schools who look like them.
So you take a whole group of high poverty schools and then you compare them
Yes,
based on an average.
yes.
Within that group.
Yep.
Without doing it with breaking them into groups, I assume what would happen is you would have a lot more high poverty schools concentrated in the Fs.
In general, when you look at just proficiency and you say who's below the average and who's above the average, the higher the level of poverty in your school, the more likely you are to be below average. Yes,
The
that is.
higher income communities would be concentrated in the A and Bs. 'Cause they would be
In like the
without-
proficiency grade, for
Yeah,
example.
without this.
Forget this grade for a minute. If we go back to that proficiency grade, if we went and ran the numbers on percent economic disadvantage in the schools getting A's, probably more of them are low percentage economic disadvantage than not, getting A's in straight proficiency. This metric hopefully will shake out to be a little bit more equitable.
Right. So there'll be high poverty or low poverty schools that will be, more of them will be graded lower than if we just did it straight up without
Oh,
comparison.
low poverty schools, yep, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
or wealthy schools.
You
would
said
be-
low poverty, but I turned it
they're
around in
wealthier
my head.
schools, it would be, yeah.
Yes, in theory, yes, there's going to be some schools, this metric is where you catch the schools who in general do pretty well based like relative the state average.
Right.
But when you say, okay, how do you do with your peers, and your peers are all high performing or all have the same, again, you're using all wealthy schools, let's say. Now you're not maybe so strong when we look at all the wealthy schools.
Right, okay.
Other thoughts, reflections, questions by board members? Mr. McMillan?
And to be clear, this is strictly based on one test,
It's based on their MSTEP and Y-axis.
which, I reiterate again, is horrible, in my opinion, and I think it doesn't reflect what we're doing here. I mean, what it's purportedly doing here. So is this breaking it up into groups of 30?
Up to 30, yes.
So if a school was 30, but if they happened to be a little bit lower, would they have been in the next group below them and they might have been real high? Is it just kind of the luck of the draw that if they were 31, if they were 31, they'd be higher in that group down there, but because they were 30,
Remember the comparison it's like it's using multiple measures, distance measures to find schools most similar to you. So it would not be if they were lower, it'd be if they were more dissimilar. If they were slightly more dissimilar, they'd be in another group, and maybe that group looks different.
right? So
yes,
just
there
a
is some
little
degree
bit
of-
yeah, I'm sorry, a little bit dissimilar, just a hair, and they could have been in the group that they would have looked good in.
In theory, yes, but there, again, it's 3 measures, it's a distance measure on all 3, and there's 30.
Yeah.
So, but there are some who, now the question is, in the next group that's slightly more dissimilar, how different is the average? I don't know, that's hard to, we'd have to do a,
Does the group stay the same year to year?
no,
No, we would recalculate it.
because percentages change
Right.
year to year.
So
Every
if
student-
they can, somebody getting an A, if they end up getting another 1 or 2 free lunch, or, one of these metrics, they could end up in another group real low. They could end up at a D. Or, something lower, not necessarily. And then is it, the Z-score, is it basically standard deviations? I appreciate the moving, towards the free lunch. And I think, Mackinac Center, didn't they basically base it on free lunch or free and reduced lunch in their,
Yeah.
okay, it was like 100%?
They do more of a prediction methodology, so they predict what your proficiency quote should be in a regression analysis based on a variety of covariates. And then they look at your distance from your actual relative, your predicted. It's another way to get at this same question. It's just a slightly different methodology.
Dr. Pritchett, did you have your hand out?
Thank you. And I know we've talked about it, but we haven't gotten real specific with it yet. So when the rollout happens, kind of following up with Mr. McMillan's question, will these 30 schools, will I as a school be able to know who else was in my group? The other 29?
Not for the first release, and we'll have to talk about the future. That's a hard thing to build into the display system, and we're on a pretty short timeline.
Okay, all right. So I may not know, if I get let's say I get a C.
Yeah. Exactly who you're in.
I'm
in your
not
group.
going to be able to know who else was in that group.
Yeah, they could look on the parent dashboard and see who their comparison schools, and as we've ran comparisons, the matching on different algorithms doesn't change your group a lot.
But remember, we disconnected this from the parent
Yep, I just
dashboard.
want to, Chris is reminding me to remind all of you that this this is not the same matching methodology as the parent dashboard. However, any matching methodology is coming up with somewhat similar groups. So while they couldn't know to a perfect group, they could get a sense of who by looking on the parent dashboard. But again, I know we want to keep this far away from the parent dashboard. That's just a place where there is some understanding of who looks like you.
Who else might
It's
be
not
in
on
that
this
group?
matching algorithm, so it
Okay.
won't be perfect.
All right. And again, the percentage numbers that we're receiving right now, you still have not been able to pull out special ed centers, and you haven't been able to pull out alternative ed.
We haven't pulled them out yet.
Yeah, so,
yeah.
so there will
So
be
the numbers, the percentages will shift a little.
a little bit. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Dr. Pugh?
I guess just in having some conversations yesterday with an educator, and they were talking about some of the things that they had to deal with within one day as it pertains to students and some things that were happening in their home life that were devastating to me just to hear. I'm wondering, does free and reduced or free lunch, are we, and I know we've kind of like talked about this, you know, I know it gives us some sort of indication as to access, but do we really, are we able to monitor traumatic experiences, adverse experiences that are going on in some of these buildings at a different rate than others?
Not really. I mean, the data systems, this is always the challenge, right? And this is, I think, why this board and educators in general struggle with systems like this, is how do you actually measure and get a data point that encapsulates what's going on in a complex social system and complex humans. So when we look at free lunch, it's proxying for trauma and everything that we know that free lunch correlates with, but not every student receiving free lunch has the same level of trauma. We know that. And we don't currently collect data on all those pieces of trauma. I think it's a good question, even if we would ever want to. Like, would that help more or not? You know what I mean? Sometimes further measurement of the problem doesn't actually help solve the problem. It just measures it better. It's the weigh the pig analogy or whatever. So, no, it does not pick all that up. But again, free lunch tries to get at some of that. It's a rough proxy.
Board may recall that originally we were looking at free and reduced price lunch. Board encouraged us to look solely at free lunch, which was perceived to be a measure of greater economic challenge or need. That metric, though, is limited. Unhappily, it's the only metric that we have that begins to approximate, Dr. Pugh, what you're talking about. President Olbrich, Ms. Fecto.
So since the N number seems to be relatively small, are you also taking into account geography? Or is it possible that based on free lunch, you could be comparing a school in an urban area with one, say, at the tip of the Upper Peninsula?
That's absolutely possible. The student FTE gets at the building size a little bit, so that might help mitigate that. But geography on its own is not accounted for.
So is it just randomly selected then?
Based on the variables that we have here.
Well,
So
right,
yeah.
but if you're limiting it to 30, then chances are there's more than 30 schools that fall within a similar category.
It's the 30 most similar to you. So we do a distance measure on each school's value on each of those measures. We look at the distance from the average, we get similar distance measures. Then we make that into one, and then we find the 30 with the most similar distance score, kind of. So it's not random, and it is 30. So so you were trying to ask, could there be a school somewhat similar that's not in your group?
Could your comparison group include schools that have vastly different, say, geographical?
Yes, because we didn't control for it in the match. So there could be any unobserved variable that's going into this match could be impactful on who's in your group.
Okay.
Like, access to cable television or something, if that was the big thing that really mattered. I mean, that's silly, but there's all kinds of unobserved things. We're only really observing 3. So we're matching on those 3 and hoping they pick up differences in schools to make the match.
Ms. Fecto, Dr. Pugh.
I just wanted to, so using the M step and the, my axis that's mandated by the law that was passed last December.
Well, this has to be measured on, the outcome is on proficiency, and so
Right.
our measures of proficiency are,
So that's
M step.
not something we have any discretion over.
Dr. Pugh.
Is this, so the students with disabilities, and I don't recall, is that, so that's at least 20%?
it is 20% of the weight.
Oh, 20, okay, I'm sorry. So 70% of the weight is free and reduced lunch, 20% is, okay. Okay, I got it.
70% free lunch.
I mean, yeah,
Reduced
that's what
night,
I-
yes.
okay.
Okay.
It just comes spelled out.
Yep. No, it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Dr. Pritchett.
Thank you. You don't need to go into a whole lot of detail. And my question may not make sense. It won't be the first time. So we have these proficiency scores for School A and School B that are similar. Are you going to, so there's third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, we'll talk about math. Are you going to combine all of the grades and come up with one proficiency score all the way through the SAT? Or just do grade bands like elementary?
So
Making
in a
sense?
K-12 school, you mean? Like if there were a K-12
No,
school?
no. In a typical district, are you going to take, and let's say there are, in a typical school,
Yeah.
you're going to take let's say it's elementary through grade 5. So you're going to take third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, math proficiency, add them together.
Yeah, so we would band it, they are aggregated by building, the
Okay.
test scores. However, what's not on the slides is, part of the, sort of the bucketing of this is we would bucket like grade span buildings together as well. So you're
Okay.
not having, if you're a high school, you're probably not gonna have a K-3 building
Right.
in your bucket.
But we do combine the proficiencies across the
We do,
grades.
yes.
And across the subjects. That was the board voted on that in
That's right, we did.
October, I think.
ELA and math
Yes.
Yep.
together. Especially at the elementary level, which you're aware of, because some go through grade 5, some go through grade 6, then you've got your 5, 6 buildings, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to try to keep those,
As best as we can,
As
yeah.
best
This-
as you can.
We have upwards of 200 different grade combinations in
Yeah.
the state. So yeah, as best as we can control for those, we will.
correct? Okay, thank you.
I just have one more question. I don't remember what the formula was for this. The students with disabilities, is that is that gonna be a number or?
It's
or-
the FTE.
Okay, okay.
It's the
Okay.
FTE
Yep.
converted into a percentage, right? I
Um,
mean, straight FTE doesn't account for the fact that some schools are larger than others.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, yeah.
That I'm,
That's a big deal.
Proportion of FTE, probably.
Yes,
yeah, I'm not recalling.
that's huge.
Well, you can,
Okay.
yeah. We'll let you know. We'll have to answer that. I'm sure it's the proportion of the FTE. Or something like that, something to account for the idea that 10 FTEs in a 10 FTE school is different than 10 FTEs in a 100 FTE school.
Right.
Ms. Tilley? No? Ms. Snyder? Ms. Ramos-Montini? No? Other board members, second bites or third bites?
I might, once there's a motion.
Okay. Could I have a motion, hearing no additional comment or questions or thoughts? Could I have a motion on the table for the approval of these cut scores?
So moved?
Okay, Ms. Fecto, second by Dr. Pritchett. Any additional discussion? And we probably properly ought to sequence our work a little bit differently for the next category. Mr. McMillan.
First of all, getting to the motion, are we only approving the cut scores or the 70, the distribution and the way, it's free lunch, are we,
You're actually approving the two.
the whole?
Yes.
Whole methodology, is that acceptable to the motion in the second, I assume?
Was that understood in the
Yes.
motion? That was understood in the second? Thank you for the clarification.
So just thinking out loud here, I know there was a little bit of consternation that last month some of us were not wanting to put our fingerprints on this because in passing in some of these areas or abstaining. No, I appreciate the movement towards like the free lunch and some of the feedback that the board members gave. Really, yeah. I mean, I don't like, obviously we said it a lot. We don't like this whole method of what's going to happen and the repercussions. I guess I hope that we've talked a little bit about how it's going to be presented on the website and press releases or whatever else, but to make it clear that we feel this exercise is probably more damaging than helpful. Although it takes more than a sentence to explain why, so it may fall on deaf ears to at least the legislators or a bulk of them. But I mean, on this particular one, I do appreciate the move towards something that's a little bit better. I guess this is, it's the least, or it's less harmful than I think it could be, so I guess I'm willing to vote for it, but certainly I'm not voting for the idea that we impose this on students. I still think it's harmful, maybe a little bit less harmful the way we're doing it this way, and I probably can't think of a less harmful than what it is now. So I appreciate your staff doing this.
Thank you. Other board members, Ms. Tilley?
Because it's being broken up into similar schools, what effect would adding reduced lunch along with free lunch would it have?
Dr. Kiesler?
To be totally clear, we ran a number of simulations. It doesn't change the distribution of the grades very much at all, regardless of how you match. Similar schools are similar schools, or at least your performance is similar even if you're in different groups. So I don't think it would have much of an impact. And it's, the original methodology, economic disadvantage, was free and reduced lunch. And this, even changing to only 70% free lunch, did not have a big impact on the distribution, on who got which grades. So that's both comforting and not comforting, depending on how you think about it. But this is fairly resilient to changes in methodology. How you perform stays somewhat stable. So I don't know that there's a lot more purchase on changing it probably would not have much of an impact.
Okay.
That's my short answer.
Thank you.
Could have just said that.
Other questions or comments before we vote?
I just wanted to echo what Tom said. I think, it's clear all of us are very disheartened when this law was passed and how it was passed. But if we can do anything to reduce the harm of it, and again, making it clear that we do not think that this is to the benefit of schools or students. This was mandated, and we are working within that context. I support that. So.
And the board will be involved in that contextualization that we put out in March when we release A through F. Other thoughts or comments, questions? Question, commentaire, no? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
I will abstain.
I beg your pardon, with one abstention from Dr. Pugh. Proficiency, Dr. Kiesler, Mr. Jansen.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the second of three, the proficiency. So again, just a brief recap. I appreciate, who asked the question? Was it Dr. Albrecht the last time who said, what is this really about? So I will take a minute and say, this is the grade the schools get based on their proficiency in ELA and math. Dr. Pritchett's questions from before were helpful. It is combined proficiency across grades and those two content areas based on the vote of the board. It's going to be a long day, I'm sorry. Vote of the board in October. And so when you combine those proficiency numbers, percent proficient, these are the current recommended cut scores. 55% proficient to 100% proficient would be an A, 40 to 55% a B, 23 to 40 be a C, 10 to 23 would be a D, and below 10 would be an F. And using that distribution, we get approximately a third of schools getting getting an A, approximately another third getting a B, and then the remaining about 25% a C, 13% a D, and 8% getting an F.
Questions? Actually, why don't we do this? Why don't we put the motion on the table and then do the discussion as I think is proper under Robert's Rules of Order. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Pritchett. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Fecto. Discussion. We're in discussion at this point. Mr. McMillan.
So does the statute discuss how to measure proficiency?
Is proficiency based on the state assessments, I think is what the statute says.
We wouldn't be allowed to add anything to it. Free and reduced lunch.
I'm not sure what you're proposing.
I don't know. I
so
mean,
I'm
is
not
there any
sure
way
how
to, is this the only way to measure? I mean, is this the only way we could measure proficiency, or is there any other way?
This is what proficiency is currently. When you take the M-STEP, you get a label. Proficient is one that uses this here. There's not another proficiency definition or concept in this context.
So are you asking if we can make up a word proficiency?
Yeah. I mean, if things are
Run that
if things are
regression.
defined, I mean, as a legislator, if it's not defined, it means it's open. And so I just was curious as to, I mean, it's too late in the game too late in this to do anything now, but I'm just thinking about next year. So, yeah, I don't really, so 8% of the schools will get an F, 13 a D. And we know where those are going to be. And what, as far as, for the most part, as far as consequences for getting an F and a D, is there any other than, being disheartened and being labeled? But is there any, there's no closures or threats or anything like that, is there?
The law does not specify certain consequences for getting certain grades. There is a requirement around identification for the bottom 5%, with the department then being responsible for the so what, and those are discussions we're still having.
And does all this have to go before some kind of a board that was created during No,
the legislatively appointed peer review panel
Yeah.
reviewed it. That's what's required by the statute. They may want to review it again after you are done with your decision making. They may not, but they submitted their report by October 31st as they committed to, and that was what the statute required. There is no additional required thing.
Okay. But what they submitted their report has been changed a little bit, right?
We have made some modifications to the system since they reacted to it.
Ms. Snyder.
The peer review panel was the individuals that we were given in the packet during our meetings. Okay. And they're educators.
Oh, sorry, there were two, this got a little confusing. There were two panels. So there was the legislatively required peer review panel that was 3 nominees from the governor,
Yes.
1 from the House Majority Leader and 1 from the Senate Majority Leader.
Okay.
And they were all educators, yes.
Okay.
And then there was the standard recommending panel, which looked at the cut scores and brought forward the cut scores. Those were all educators as well, but they were people that we identified through processes,
Okay.
looked for representation and different types of educators,
Okay.
ISDs and schools and different.
And this spread is what those educators recommended.
This is not exactly what the standard panel recommended. This has undergone some adjustments by the department through our, this is what the department is recommending at this point, based on months of conversations.
But to your question, it's our recommendation informed initially by the standard recommending panel, but also informed by your input over the last few months. Your collective input, not your singular input, but your collective input.
And 55 to 100 translates to the M-STEP proficiency score, which is a range.
55 is the percent of students in the school who were proficient on the M-STEP. So it is not actually the M-STEP score. The M-STEP score of proficiency is whatever it is.
The
I actually
range of
don't
whatever
know.
it is, 11.
Yes, from something to something, and then a student is proficient or advanced.
Okay. And 55% is the state of Michigan's number.
This is just the range, to get an A on this metric, it's the percent of kids who have to have been proficient on the M-STEP, proficient or advanced on the M-STEP.
Ms. Vector?
So I remember, if I recall, that, so transfer students, their grades are not counted. They have to be in the school from the beginning of the year to the end, or something like that?
Yeah, it's a full academic year, so they would have to be there. We base it on the count, the student counts that happen in, there's one in October, one coming up in February, and then one during the assessment window itself.
For those specific students that weren't there, their grades are excluded?
Correct.
Okay. I know it's probably too late for this year, but we get another chance to review next year. And I'm looking, there's a lot of discussion around chronic absenteeism, to also exclude, I think we should also exclude kids who are chronically absent, not, because that's not something I mean, the schools can try to control it, but a lot of times it's, beyond their charge to do that. So I'd like it to be considered, at least in the future, that we also consider chronic absenteeism and not including those grades, not punishing teachers and schools based on that. Overall, I like the shift to weight the way the change to weight it the way it is now, and I appreciate that change. There was a couple other questions. What happens to my axis? How is that weighted in here as compared to the regular state assessments?
It just counts as another score. It's
Okay.
the student is proficient or they're not.
Regardless of the disability? Even so, some schools may have much more severely disabled children that could affect the scores.
Well, and hopefully they're giving them the appropriate level of my access then.
Right.
Remember, there's 3
okay.
levels that are matched to level of disability and determined by the IEP team what the appropriate assessment is.
I also, so forgive me for not understanding this, but on the comparisons to different schools, there were 28% getting Ds and 18% getting Fs, but here it's 13% getting Ds and 8% getting Fs. So I'm trying to, this, on page 4, why are they different? Why are they so different?
The cut scores are different, so the distributions are different.
So it'll be a separate grade for each?
Yes. So wherever you set the cut scores on each grade determines how many fall in each category. So if we set really, really hard cut scores on one and everybody got Fs, then on the next one we set really, really easy cut scores and everybody got As. That can happen because we're setting them individually. There's not a forced distribution on each of the grades. It's not only 5% can get this. It's wherever we set the cuts. So.
Okay, so a parent would look at this results and they would say, my school got an F on, when they're compared to similar, but they got an A overall.
That might happen.
Okay.
Ms. Tilley?
I like Michelle's idea of excluding those students that have the high absenteeism, because of course, if they're chronic and they're not in school, of course they're not going to do well on the test, most likely anyway. But I do want to go on record saying that I do not like or agree with these cut scores. You have about half of your schools that are going to be in the C, D, and F range. And this just feels like we're punishing schools, a lot of these schools that have challenges. When our focus, this is the legislators' focus. Our focus is being back in the top 10 and 10. Punishing only teaches people what they shouldn't do, not what they should do. And we need to focus on giving resources. So I just wanted to go on record stating that.
That's fair. Thank you. Dr. Pugh.
And I think I brought this up last month, and somewhat to Tom as well as Michelle's point, is getting to a place where we can look at some sort of way that we adjust for some of these other things that are going on in the schools, to give out a flat outcome without looking at other predictors that explain the outcomes. We just don't do that in other places. And so as Tom asked for another way to define proficiency, I guess I kind of understand that as, can we look at the outcome, but look at it adjusting for the poverty levels or the reduced lunch. I'm saying that wrong, free lunch.
Yeah.
Free lunch, or, looking at the absentee rates, but versus just equating that an outcome to whether a school gets a A or a F.
It's the board's objection to the entire exercise, that it forces comparisons of unlikes. The board's on record. We as an administration are on record as opposing this way of thinking. But the legislature is prescriptive in certain regards in Public Act 601. What you're talking about is completely permissible in the comparison among similar schools metric, which you just looked at. Less so with respect to proficiency. And we will explore the issue of chronic absenteeism. I think that there's some value to that, but we'll explore it with respect to whether or not we have the legislative flexibility to do that. We ought not to be comparing unlikes in any way, shape, or form in the state. But that is not what the law says. The law requires us to compare unlikes. It compels us to do so, not happily, but it compels us nonetheless.
And I appreciate you adding that narrative. I point out things because there are ways to do what it is that we're suggesting to do.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's ways that most people use who are trying to get real answers to or solve problems. There are ways to get at this.
Absolutely, both in other fields, as you point out, from your career, and in education. So there's no question but that this is not only capable,
Right.
not only possible, but it's capable to be done here in our state with amendments to state law. Other thoughts or questions? Dr. Pritchett, Ms. Fecta.
Thank you. SAT, high school. So So SAT scores are converted to proficiency, correct? And trying to remember the chart in my mind. Math is math, but aren't there 2 scores for ELA on the SAT?
It's evidence-based reading and.
Reading and writing,
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, it's combined into a single score, though, for, well, reporting purposes, we use it in the current accountability system as well, so.
Okay, so that's the score we're going to be using for, again, talking about high schools, what about those 9th graders that are taking PSAT? Again, that's not mandated at this point, it's still optional. Is that being included at all? Okay, so the 9th grade scores, even though they may be out there, we're just going to look at, for high schools, the SAT scores. So then it doesn't become as important to worry about whether it's a 9 through 12 building or a 10 through 12 building or an 11-12 building or whatever configuration they have. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fecta.
Is there, I've heard from people in the field, and as a parent, I've had this happen where I've had children who just refuse to take the test, and they just don't take it. They don't want to. They put their head down and that's it. Or they just will answer very quickly and turn it in and not, in that way, not take the test. Is there any way to control for that?
No, I mean, in practice, we find most kids take the test. There is no way to control for effort. If, you cared a lot about the test and you tried hard, your score looks the same to us as you didn't care at all and you just checked C and got done. So that's part of the noise in state assessment. That's there.
I hear that from teachers, that these kids just hand them back in and they're going to get graded as a teacher on that. So, also, I just was on the way in listening to public radio talking about a lawsuit in California where they're trying to challenging the SAT and the ACT as being more predictive of income than of ability. So that will be interesting to me to see if that has any impact, depending how the lawsuit comes out. So
I think it's a point well taken, but recall that all of these tests are going to be enormously predictive of income. Income is driving result, and not exclusively, but in good measure. All else being equal, income is driving results. Now, all else doesn't have to be equal, and that's what we've talked about with the School Finance Research Collaborative recommendations for providing more equitable and more adequate school funding across the state. But at some point, you have to give children who have less more to give them equal opportunity. They can't get less at home and the same at school and expect to achieve at the same levels. Somewhere they have to get more to make up for getting less. That's the equity of the School Finance Research Collaborative recommendations. So when I say all else being equal, I'm saying resources being roughly equal for schooling. It's your exposure, which is driven by your socioeconomic status overwhelmingly, which drives your test performance. That's not just my opinion, although it is. It's 50 years worth of research. And it's not simply the SATs or the ACTs. I would argue it's virtually any assessment that you give young people at any age where exposure creeps in and you are measuring not simply the strength of the instruction that they've received or the education that they've received, but also you're measuring all that prior exposure. Yes, ma'am. Other thoughts or questions or comments? Mr. McMillan.
I guess, there's two cut scores. There's one basically that has to do with the percent of students in a building that are proficient. But then there's also the cut score of what is proficient. But we already do that on the dashboard, right? So, we're basically just using that. But I guess my point earlier was that, just thinking outside the box, it's one thing when we were making calculations and putting it on a dashboard. It's another thing when it becomes high stakes. Maybe it's another thing, and that we, really, again, it's too late now, but that, maybe we can, I don't know if the statute allows for defining proficiency. I guess that's kind of my question is that I know that everybody assumes it's the same that everybody has been doing, but I guess, and again, you don't want to mess around with it too much, but in the light of wanting to make it less harmful, I think maybe this coming year when I know you're going to look at, we're going to address this stakeholder group on the growth metric, but maybe we can talk about other things they could look at to make the legislature's actions less harmful stakeholder group, make it a little bit more expansive. I don't know.
Well, I do think that the legitimacy of an A through F system turns on its fairness. And an A through F system that doesn't look at the differences among schools is widely perceived, not simply by educators, but those beyond education, as being unfair. So to the extent that the legislature would like to imbue current state law with more legitimacy, it's going to have to reflect upon, to your point, Mr. McMillan, the fairness of those individual areas. And if you can't figure out how to factor in differences among unlikes, then the fairness will, the unfairness will certainly be there, and by extension, a certain illegitimacy. So I think that we all have a responsibility, whether we like the idea of A through F or not, but in the first year of anything that we do, we have a responsibility to look to see if we can improve it, or if we are simply stuck on what we did one day during lame duck session. President Aldrich.
I would just second what Tom said, though, that I think it's, I always argue it's important to put definitions in because we tend to use language that projects one thing but really means something else. And so I think proficiency is one of those things. When you hear the word proficient, you assume that means a basic level of understanding, but the reality is what we are measuring is much higher than that. And so if we're saying someone's not proficient, it doesn't mean that they are completely incapable of the skill. It simply means they haven't reached a certain cut point that we have maybe arbitrarily named proficient.
It's a good point, and I do think that there's some value to Dr. Kiesler, Mr. Janzer, being very careful about defining the terminology as we release this in March, so that people are clear that proficient isn't basic proficiency, it's really high bar proficiency. It's actually high bar proficiency. The board may recall that we went from low bar MEP to high bar MEP, and from high bar MEP to M-STEP, which is a higher bar still, given our cut scores. So this is not a basic proficiency about which we're talking now. It's a higher order of proficiency, and it's well taken to define our terms. Dr. Pugh.
And I think just expounding on what Cassandra said, it could also mean that in spite of, I'm thinking of some of the stories I heard yesterday, in spite of all of that, you've reached this point, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, and it does make sense, and the test is challenging. We've talked about the challenge of the test and the challenge of the cut between proficiency and not. So I do think that there's some value to making that clear, reminding people as we put this out in March, because it's a little bit of inside baseball that you as board members are aware of the challenge of the test. Educators certainly are aware of the challenge of the test, but I'm not sure a general public is necessarily aware, and it would be good to remind that general public. We are reviewing M-STEP in particular ways. I do think that that's another opportunity to get at this concept that the board is discussing now, the notion of proficiency. What Dr. Kiesler said is accurate. It's proficiency on state assessment. But that does not mean that state assessment is immutable. State assessment is mutable, and we have the opportunity to review that, to reflect upon it, and to make certain decisions about it. Other questions or comments? Ms. Vecto?
I do.
No, it's all good.
I just, this has always been unclear to me. So there's a limited amount of my access tests that are allowed. But it's, if a school has 40% of the kids with, IEPs, with cognitive disabilities, would they be limited to 1% of those students? Or in another school that might have a very small percentage of special ed kids also be able to do 1% my access?
It's a statewide 1% cap, and then we've submitted a waiver the past several years because we go over the cap statewide and need to go over the cap because kids need to take the assessment most appropriate to them.
Right.
So if you have 40% of your kids with moderate to severe cognitive disabilities and they take one of the MyAccess and they take the MyAccess.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking of like Flint or schools that are impacted by environmental issues like that. So,
The cap aspect is not preventing anybody from taking the MyAccess. What may be is good assessment selection, IEP team, confusion, there may be other things acting, but we at no point say, no, you can't, you've hit a cap, or like when students can take the test they need to take. And then we deal on the back end with the feds about how many took it. I think if we jumped from, I think we're at about 2.3% a year, something in there. If we jump from that to 15% overnight, probably there'd be some questions about what was happening. But in general, people are using it appropriately, and so then we need to just make sure kids can take the right assessment.
And the reality is if your IEP calls for a different way of assessment, then you ought to be permitted to be assessed in that way. And that ought to be the end of the conversation. It is, after all, a legal process associated with a federal law, state laws, and the like. Other comments, questions? Hearing none. All in favor of the cut scores as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Any abstentions? So we had, I heard 6-1-1 with Ms. Tilley in opposition, Dr. Pugh abstaining. Okay, hearing no amendments to that vote count. Growth.
Okay, modifying the growth metric. Another grade required by PA 601 is a grade on the percent of students demonstrating growth in math and ELA. So there has been a lot of discussion at this board table about the best ways to measure and credit schools for the growth that students demonstrate on assessments. As you probably remember, right now we use our student growth percentiles that looks at how a student performed in third grade, let's say, and then where they performed in the distribution of scores. And then in fourth grade, it looks at that same distribution. It gives them an individual student growth percentile or a growth score. And then we compare that to a target to say, are you growing enough to get proficient within about 3 years? And that's your adequate growth percentile. So this metric counts up the number of students who met adequate growth and gives a school a grade on that. Or that's how we do growth, and then that's how we use it in this metric. There's been a lot of discussion about different ways to look at growth. The team, Chris led the team in preparing a number of options for consideration. For this first year, we recommend that we use our current growth calculation. It's in place. It's one that's familiar. We know it works. And then we can concurrently convene a stakeholder group to discuss various options for modifying this metric in the future. Changes to metrics like this there's a lot to think about and a lot to consider, and it would be good to do that with a larger group. So if we, again, using the adequate growth percentiles method, so it says the percent of the kids in a school who met their adequate growth percentile or met their growth trajectory, or growth score, whatever. If a school has between 55 and 100% of students meeting their growth score, they would get an A. 40 to 55 would get a B. 25% to 40% making adequate growth would get a C. 10 to 25% of kids making adequate growth would get a D, and below 10 would get an F. And using that distribution, we would have about 50% of schools getting either an A or a B, 27% getting a C, and then the remaining 23% getting a D or an F.
So, I'm sorry, once again, can you please just define what adequate growth means?
So it looks at, is a student growing enough, if they're not already proficient, are they growing enough that they will reach proficiency over up to 3 years? They could get there quicker. Because again, we don't want kids just, the policy decision behind this is it's not okay to just grow a little every year and never get to where you're going. that we want to get them proficient. So adequate growth says, did they grow enough? If they're not proficient, are they growing enough to get proficient? If they are proficient, are they growing enough to stay proficient? So that's what adequate growth is. It applies an adequacy. Was it enough growth question to the baseline student growth percentile.
Other questions or comments? Mr. McMillan?
So this is the first time I've heard 3 years. So adequate growth is growth to proficiency within 3 years? Wow, I had no idea. So fourth grader that's at, I mean, is proficiency generally, is there a number, 70% or 60?
There is a cut score affiliated with it.
Is it like, I mean, is it like 70%?
Not a percentage, it's a cut score.
Okay,
So,
well, it's hard for me to, okay, but let's say it's 70% on this test, and they're at 20% today. In 3 years, they're supposed to get to 70%. Now, if their trajectory is to 40, I mean, that's tremendous. And yet that school will be deemed, not doing well for that student. And again, a student who's at 90, as long as they're slipping a little bit, but they could be losing 5%, but they're not going to get below 70, they're a success. That school is a success. So that's where I just really have a problem with how this is calculated. I mean, am I right there or am I not right?
Can I back up, because I got us off on the wrong foot on this, if we could. If we could have a motion to consider.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Fecto, second by Dr. Pritchett. Mr. McMillan, back to you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just want to make sure, is that, where am I wrong in that?
So you're not entirely, let me just, again, to use Dr. Reiser's, let me back up a little. The policy decision is saying a 3-year trajectory. So it's asking the question of how much growth is enough growth. One of the things this stakeholder group could consider is changing that and say, oh, it's 5 years, or it's 2 years, or it's a different amount of time. But somehow we had to set a standard for, if you're not proficient now, how long can you be in the K-12 system moving along and making some growth, but not getting to this place we want you to get? It is, you're right, if a student is extremely, extremely low performing, 1 year they're at the bottom of the scale, and they're not proficient, and they move up, they could move up, a decent amount and still be not proficient and maybe still not have made their growth trajectory. But it does pick up a lot of kids who make an adequate growth trajectory. You're also right on the top end. Growth is hard for students who are already proficient. How much growth do you want to see for an already proficient student? I mean, I see Kara nodding. So they're already proficient. You want them to keep growing. There's ceiling effects. The test tops out. We don't spend all our time figuring out just how advanced a kid is. We want to keep the test short, so we don't just keep questioning them to figure out if they're like advanced, like genius level or whatever. So do you penalize a school for a kid who stays proficient but maybe lags a little?
Do you reward them though? I mean, I agree.
Currently, if they fall back too much, we would penalize them.
I know, but I mean.
But yes, if a kid just kind of is like, meh, they're proficient and they didn't decline so much that they're going to become not proficient, so they stay growing. Growth is, I've been doing this here because Chris has been doing it longer, but this growth is the very hardest thing measurement-wise, because it makes tons of sense. Like, it makes a lot of sense, common sense-wise. When you get down to measuring it, it is extremely challenging. So what would be the right thing for that student who's at the top of the scale, dropped a little, but what if they just had a bad day? What if they don't care about this test because they're too busy prepping for their SAT 2 test that they're taking to get into their scholarship? There's a lot of reasons a kid could not do great on this, and then do you give, Marble Elementary School a ding because that day a student who's already proficient, high performing, did a little worse? Maybe. I mean, I think it's a philosophical question that's a good one for a stakeholder group.
I mean, I'm more focused on the ones where the students are low performing and we're getting something. I mean, those are teachers that are already getting penalized because they're going to get a D for their school because in proficiency, or an F, and yet they're doing their best, and and it all has unintended consequences. the good teachers are less likely to, or shouldn't say, it's harder to attract good teachers when it's stacked against them. They could make great progress and it's still not going to be enough to where they're proficient. It's going to track proficiency and hit proficiency. And
Again, it is an excellent philosophical and policy question of how much growth is enough? Any growth enough? Does it have to be a certain amount? Do we care if a student spends 12 years in our system and never gets proficient? And I'm just asking these as questions for your consideration. I am not, these are the type of questions that have to be
and that
considered.
question, though, assumes that the test is legitimate and the proficiency is a good measure. So, I mean, there's so many things,
To some degree, though, eventually they graduate and they go to college, and we hope that they'll be able to pass their nursing exam or their teacher's exam or their bar exam. So growth is important. It's important, though it's challenging to measure. It's important.
Yeah, but I will also counter that with, based on tests, I would have been considered not career and college ready. And that, I think I proved that not to be the case.
So there's nuance
So,
to it,
yeah.
for sure. But it's still something we value.
I don't value that at all.
If we,
The whole labeling, all of it, assuming a kid's intelligence and worth is based on their ability to take a single test.
if we could move comments and questions through the chair, that would be great. Dr. Pugh.
And it probably wasn't meant this way, but I think, the example that you gave, Tom, and then the response, Dr. Kiesler, about a student maybe slipping backwards might be due to them thinking about some other tests. If we're going to be thinking like that, we also have to think about a child might not have eaten, and that may be why they didn't go in the forward direction. So we really have to be careful about how we think things through for one end of the spectrum and then the other end of the spectrum. And I know you are, but I mean, I just want to make sure that we put that out in the atmosphere because everybody might not be.
Thank you. It's an excellent point, and I think just trying to reiterate that the test event itself has noise in it. Why a student does well on any given day has a lot of things going on that may or may not be related to what they actually know about the content on all ends of the performance spectrum. That is true. That's the noise in the test.
Which is Ms. Taylor, I got you. Which is a point about the logic of using a single test as the foundation for anything, particularly high stakes. Ms. Tilly.
I wanted the percentages, and I wanted to make sure that I have clarity.
Okay.
So proficiency, we're looking at every 3 years for the growth.
Growth is measured yearly, and it says, did I make enough growth that if I'm not proficient, I would get there in 3 years? So kind of my line, my improvement line is like this, not like this.
So we're going to look at the standardized tests every year.
Yes, we are required by federal law currently to test students annually in grades 3 through 8 in ELA and math.
And it's going to include high school as well.
And then, yes,
The
we're also
SAT.
required to test them in 11th grade on ELA and math.
Okay. And then what are the percentages?
The distribution?
Yeah.
So it's 21% getting an A, 30% getting a B, 27% getting a C, 16% getting a D, and 7% getting an F.
I'm sorry, can you repeat those one more time?
21% A, 30% B, 27% C, 16% D, 7% F.
Thank you.
Dr. Pritchard.
So if we have a student in the 4th grade who gets, I don't know, the highly proficient, whatever that is, and in the 5th grade, they get the same level of proficiency, but not quite as strong, then that's where the growth comes in. So that student would be considered losing growth that particular year?
Potentially, because it's relative to their group of peers. Yeah, so if the group of students, similarly scoring students with them also declined a little bit, they actually might be at the top of that.
And the other thing is they
So
wouldn't
it's-
count as not adequate growth unless, so if they went like this, that's probably okay. They're probably still making adequate growth because they are going to stay proficient. But if they went like this,
Okay,
that student, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me, we could find them. We looked at a little bit of numbers. There is about, I want to say, somewhere in the 20%-ish. Maybe I don't want to take that number back. I would have to look at my numbers again. But there are some students who get that, who are proficient, but did not get adequate growth because they went like that. They declined too much. If they declined like that again, they wouldn't be proficient anymore.
okay, at least based on the projections,
Yeah.
okay. In comparison to their peers. And those are peers across the state, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Not just their particular school.
Right, yeah, it's peers with, basically it's looking at similarly scoring students.
All right.
Ms. Vector?
So the law says we must include growth, but it doesn't define how to do that.
I'm going to actually ask Chris to read
Yeah.
what the statute says. Or to.
So for this
yeah.
indicator, it's pupils who achieve adequate growth in mathematics and English language arts on the applicable state assessment. The measure of adequate growth under this subdivision may incorporate reporting of pupil growth measures as reported by the model value-added growth and projection analytics system implemented by the department and shall be based on any of the following as determined by the department. And then it has options, pupil growth measured from fall to spring of the same school year or from spring of one school year to the spring of the next school year. Pupils who scored proficient on the immediately preceding applicable state assessment and who at least maintained a score of proficient on the most recent applicable state assessment. And then the third option would be pupils who scored less than proficient on the immediately preceding applicable state assessment and who demonstrate growth sufficient to reach proficiency in 3 school years.
Did I hear that correctly? It says shall include, and then it gives the department the ability to not include those things?
May incorporate, so what that says, the may incorporate reporting of pupil growth measures as reported by the model value-added growth and projection analytics system. That was put in there because I think the person who wrote this law liked the EVAS system.
After that, though, it says.
And then it says, and shall be
shall be.
based on any of the following as determined by the department. So they outlined 3.
Well, I'm sorry, is that like not clear? Is shall mean you must do it, or shall means you shall figure it out for yourself?
Shall, I'm not sure what you're asking, I'm sorry.
Usually when you use the word shall, it means you must do something. But then it follows it up by saying as determined by the department. So is it mandating you do this, or is it not?
I think it's mandating we can do any of those 3 things.
Any of them? Okay.
But for instance, the first one, pupil
that
growth
right?
measured
Yeah.
from fall to
Okay.
spring of the same school year on applicable state assessments. We don't have a state assessment that tests in the fall and spring.
Okay.
So we are doing a combination of, really it ends up being a combination of A and C. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms.
It's
Ms.
an
Tilly?
interesting
I wasn't
construction.
done.
I
I'm
agree,
sorry,
it's usually.
Ms. Vector, Ms. Tilly.
Okay. I also wanted to just clarify, I think everyone here thinks growth is important, but it's the basing the growth on a standardized test, because there's a lot of people who grow in many different ways and it doesn't come out in a test. So I think that's the rub. And I would want it to, so any labeling where it says growth and proficiency, I would want it to include on a test. Not generally growth and proficiency, but growth based on test scores or something like that. Let's see, proficiency on test. So is it possible to capture any sort of growth? I mean, so so as I understand it, they have to have growth, but it has to hit a certain benchmark in order to count? Am I understanding correctly?
So their student growth percentile itself tells them how, like, what their growth value was for the year. And then in an accountability context, we asked, did they demonstrate adequate growth? And that's kind of point
So the
C,
adequate
growth
growth.
sufficient to reach proficiency.
Adequate growth is,
Yeah.
that just seems so arbitrary. And
Whole thing's arbitrary.
So,
yeah, things arbitrary.
And the
Yeah.
state assessment, in fairness, the state summative assessment is an awkward vehicle
Right,
to use to determine student growth.
right.
For a host of reasons. One, it's a summative assessment. Two, it's a state assessment. Three, it's a single day or a couple days during a year. It doesn't look at other forms of growth. It doesn't look at other assessments. It's awkward stem to stern.
Right.
And awkward is charitable. So just to be clear, it's euphemistic. Ms. Tilley?
And that's what I wanted to get into. Like, aren't there some natural drop-offs? So I just got back from one of the national educators conferences, and we were talking about the transitions. So up until about second grade, students are learning to read. After that, they're basically reading. They're learning to read, then they're reading to learn. So they were saying that there can be a natural decline once you get into third grade, and that's why you see some of the scores being lower. There's different factors, different transitions, even a child switching schools and the curriculum changes and they're losing continuity. So how do we create a narrative about growth and the reasons why a student may not, there might be a decline for them?
I think you are beginning to create a narrative about growth with these conversations. That you have begun the conversation here. That's an important conversation. I would respectfully submit that we ought to carry this conversation to the legislature over the next several months and talk about ways that A through F in its existence can be improved. Right now, we are constrained by state law. We have to have a growth letter grade, number one. It has to be based on a state assessment, number two. But one could imagine a growth metric that is different and that is not based on a state assessment, but that is based on a benchmark assessment of one sort or another, NWA MAP, iReady, STAR. One could imagine that. And I think local educators who use these assessments for the purposes of improving instruction, I think in many cases would feel that there's a greater fairness associated with that. They are, after all, supposed to measure growth. A summative assessment, less so.
So can we add like a disclosure on there?
Yes. Yeah, if we can certainly put in our March distribution of the results of this Public Act 601, the 5 letter grades, the 3 ranking labels, we can indicate that this is required to be measured by a state assessment. This is not the way that we think all growth is measured or ought to be measured, that there's lots of other growth to be measured in young people.
And then growth isn't not always a steady incline. Sometimes, you fall back several steps, and then sometimes there's a big leap forward. So.
And sometimes you plateau and then move up off that new plateau. You're absolutely right. It's a very complicated area. Dr. Kiesler speaks to the fact that this is the most complicated, if you will, of the metrics. That's true. It's complicated in part because we are hamstrung by the need to use the state assessment, and it's complicated by how one uses a state assessment. So I think that there are a lot of pieces here. We can certainly contextualize in that narrative, which we will do in March. But we would also like to work with the board to recommend some changes in this moving forward, if in fact this is going to be the state law, and it is, at least for the time being. It would be good to try to make it a state law that is more demonstrative of what happens in our schools with teachers, with children, with support staff, with administration.
With children being human beings.
Amen, yes, yeah. Other thoughts, Dr. Pritchett?
Thank you. The stakeholder group to examine growth, my understanding is that's going to happen post-haste, fairly quickly, so that possibly if there was a change in the definition, it could be applied then to the 2020 state assessment, spring state assessment.
We need to get working on this discussion.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. McMillan?
I just pulled up the legislation as well. So basically what we're doing is C, and what I'm suggesting potentially is A?
We're doing a mix of A and C.
But A says raw growth, right? It's just or from the spring of one year to the spring of the next year as appropriate based on the timing. So that would be raw growth. So that would be even.
Yeah, other than saying adequate growth.
I just want to make sure that what I'm suggesting or potentially suggesting is allowed. I didn't know it was quite this prescriptive until I've been looking at it. But C says 3 years, so we can't use 5, can we? It seems like it's got to be 3 years.
Yeah.
We can deal with that later. I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but I'm just saying, based on what you're looking at, there is some room. Well, also, they didn't define proficiency, which I know is a little bit controversial, but B, I think some kind of raw growth where a student that's really struggling but is getting better, but maybe not better that it's going to reach it in 3 years, is still counted as potentially still counted as some kind of success or not failure. That I think I see some room in there for that kind of a thing for the group to analyze. And I'm hoping that one of us can be on that group. I'd love to be on this stakeholder group, but I hope one of us the board is a stakeholder, so I would hope that we would have somebody on that group.
Duly noted that you have an interest in being a part of the stakeholder group. Other board comments or questions?
Well, I just want
Ms.
to,
Facto?
I just wanted to point out again, in the light of doing least harm, the fact that there's only 7% that would get an F, I think is in line with that. So, and that 50% would get A or B. I think that that moves in the direction of doing the least amount of harm. So,
Well, the board may recall that it was responsible for that application of the Hippocratic Oath, if you will. And the board worked with those initial percentages and altered the distribution based on its effort to apply a Hippocratic Oath, if you will, to this process. With apologies to those in the health field for whom it has a somewhat slightly different application.
but I do like the idea of giving credit for raw growth, if there's, even if it's not, schools are working and making growth, especially if they have a lot of other issues going on. I think that should be commended and not used in any way as a punishment because they didn't, jump high enough, So I support what you just said, Tom. Yeah.
So embedded into the metric. That
Right.
might be something that that is something that our stakeholder group should reflect upon.
And
Please.
And I want to say, I know there's looking back federally and I'm sure statewide, there's a civil rights aspect to this. Certainly, we want all kids to get proficiency. and grow, but again, how do you measure proficiency is one test, and how do you, measure, I mean, it's all, and that it's just math and ELA. I mean, it's not things that may become more and more important as AI and everything, as we get more and more technologically advanced. Those may not become quite as important as many other aspects that we are declining in importance because we're focused on those two subjects. So anyway, that's, well, I appreciate some of the effort on this. I had said, though, that I would have liked a different kind of growth. So, I mean, me personally, and I certainly respect those who will be supporting this, but I still think that we could do a better job defining growth for me to get a vote. And so I can't support this.
Very good. Any other, I'm sorry, Ms. Tilley?
What other measures do you suggest?
But just raw. I mean, I think raw growth would, and I'm willing to hash it out as to why that might not be best, but in my mind, making it so that even the ones that are at the very top at 95%, they ought to be able to grow. And if they, I don't, and the ones that are lower, if they're at 20%, if they're growing, I think the school shouldn't potentially be penalized and say they're not growing enough for 3 years to reach adequacy or to make adequate growth. So and the side effects.
This data, what is it going to be used for if they're not going to use it to close schools? What are they going to use it for?
Well, let's be clear. There is no state authority to close a school at this point in the state of Michigan. That does not exist.
Hopefully it won't.
Well, there was an
they're
argument.
creating laws.
Right. There was no disagreement, but there was an argument that at one point it was permissible to close schools. There is no argument at this point. It is not permissible to close schools in the state. That could change, of course, but currently that's currently not the law.
I think it would be irresponsible for them to do that, but
I think the state's involvement in local schools has not been a positive one. It's hard to run local schools at the local school district level, let alone at the state level.
Can you give me the full motion again?
Sure. The motion is to approve the cut scores as noted herein.
Can there be an amendment that there is a disclosure added? Because our kids aren't machines, and we're basically looking at growth that it should just incline, and that's not, they're human beings. So there should be some type of disclosure but can that be added to the motion?
So the disclosure would say at the point of distribution of the letter grades, we would note that the board feels that growth manifests itself in a wide variety of ways, wholly separate and distinct from state testing. I want to understand better what you have an interest in for March, because I think your board colleagues are largely going to be supportive of a notion of a disclaimer or a contextualization, but I want to make sure that we get it right in March, and so that they know what they're voting on with respect to your friendly amendment.
Yeah. I think it needs to be more to that language than that.
Okay.
What your statement was.
Should be more than that statement?
I think there should be more added to the language than what your statement was.
Okay, share a little bit more. Help us flesh it out.
And I don't necessarily know the wording, but I know that there's so much more to growth, and you can't measure it by saying that every year if someone's scores aren't going up, then they're not growing.
Okay, so there might be a disclaimer that indicates that the state board believes that growth manifests itself in a wide variety of ways, including but not limited to growth on assessments. That growth is social and emotional. It's academic in a wide variety of ways. It manifests itself in a wide variety of ways. And all of that ought to be rightfully incorporated in any growth metric to be fair both to the students and the children measured.
But I think too, like we said a little while back, that there's a drop off sometimes, there's a decline, there's a plateau. Sometimes growth, there's a stagnation period, and then there's growth. So somehow to word it where that is in the disclosure.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Well, what we have is, what we have, I believe, is a motion for a friendly amendment,
Yes.
okay?
Add to,
You want to add friendly to friendly?
yeah. I just want to say that I am supportive of the amendment, but also including that this is for this year only, and we are going to pull together a group to look at growth. Can
Yes.
that be part of the amendment?
Fair enough. So what we have is, we have a friendly amendment, friendlily amended, that indicates that we will contextualize that we believe growth is much broader than simply growth on a state assessment, and that what we pass this year will be reflected upon by a stakeholder group in the coming year with recommendations brought forward to the state board in time for it to reflect upon possible changes to this metric in the coming year.
Perfect.
Okay? It's a little bit of a mouthful, but I think there's clarity around the friendly amendment amended in a friendly fashion. Did we get the spirit of what you are interested in, Ms. Tilley? And President Albrecht, very good. So we are voting on the,
Further discussion?
we're voting on the amendment to the motion.
If it's friendly, we don't have to vote on it. If the
Fair enough.
maker and the
Does anybody have any objection to the friendly nature of?
No, the only thing I wanted to say is I wanted to say that this is an imperfect measure, to make it just clear. It's not just broader measure. This is imperfect. This is not, or I would even say invalid, but I won't go that far. But something that says that this measure itself is imperfect. So that's my only 2 cents.
Okay. Fair enough. We have Dr. Pugh, is that a hand?
I just have a question.
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
you're going to be putting footnotes to each of these measures, right?
One at the top.
I just want to make sure, because we didn't deliberate in this way, but it was my thought.
We did
Okay.
not talk about the form of disclaimer. Originally, we were thinking of a single disclaimer
Okay.
that would pick up the entirety thereof. I am not averse to getting the wisdom of the board in that contextualization or that disclaimer statement. I would be happy to seek that out, recognizing that at some point we've got to get to one hand and we've got to release this in March. But I'm happy to involve the board in that. I envision it as a single statement on the entirety thereof, and perhaps on individual subcomponents thereof.
Let me just sneak this in
Please.
too. And I'm good with the disclaimer here. I see
Right.
the appropriateness of it. I was just making sure that it didn't mean that there wasn't a broader or single disclaimers. And then the other thing is, going back to that point of being able to show some examples. I mean, you might even be able to run some calculations to even prove the point I know we can't do that for each of the different scoring, but you might be able to show again, how some of the predictors or some of the other things influence outcomes of the scores.
It's a good point. I see us having more work at the state board level, more work in the stakeholder group, but I also see us having more work with the state legislature as well on this issue, because rightly speaking, we ought to be measuring growth in ways that educators measure growth to improve children, and not simply the way one measures de facto growth in a political context. Yes. So we have a friendly amendment. I have not heard any objection to the friendly amendment. Hearing no objection to the friendly amendment, we are voting on the base vote, the cut scores as presented by Dr. Kiesler and Mr. Janzer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, so I have a nay in Mr. McMillan. Any abstentions? Dr. Pugh. So I heard 6-1-1 in that. Very good. Okay, it is 11:27, and I would like, with the board's permission, to amend the agenda and move to the approval of the Model 24/7 tobacco-free schools policy with Dr. Golzinski and Mr. Kyle Durant. The Model 24/7 tobacco-free schools policy has been updated to expand the types of tobacco products, including...
I'm sorry, do we have to go into a different session in order to, or are we just doing discussion right now?
You were in regular session, you were
Oh,
on the
okay.
committee of the whole, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just trying
No,
to
it's all
keep you
good.
legal.
No, it's all good. And I want to be legal. Model 24/7 tobacco-free schools policy has been updated to expand the types of tobacco products, including vapor products and electronic smoking devices. The model policy was presented to the board on September 10th, 2019, and public comment was solicited. The board is being asked to approve the model policy at today's meeting. Here to present to us are Mr. Kyle Durant, Deputy Superintendent for Finance and Operations, and Dr. Diane Golzinski, Director of the Office of Health and Nutrition Services. There is a PowerPoint presentation. May I please have a motion to approve the Model 24/7 tobacco-free schools policy before our presentation begins? Dr. Pugh with the motion, and a second by President Ulbrich. Gentle people, your show.
Thank you, Dr. Rice. We will be quick. We sent an update on this item in the board brief, I think, a couple weeks ago, just to give you a flavor for the public comment period. And I'll turn over to Dr. Golzinski to walk through the PowerPoint quickly.
All right,
Get your
thank you.
questions.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be back with you again. You'll see some of the same slides as you saw 2 months ago when we were here in September. The tobacco uses are a great concern for us, and we are looking to update the model policy that the state board has for schools to use. So we know that e-cigarette use is increasing in our youth, and that is something that we wanted to make sure that this new policy addressed. The most current policy was adopted in 2005. It does not address those newer forms of tobacco products such as e-cigarettes and vaping. So the updates to the policy include that expanded list of tobacco products, inclusion of the non-tobacco products that contain nicotine, and the updated language, such as going from the coordinated school health model to the WISC model. What we have done to date is we have updated the middle school tobacco module within the Michigan Model for Health curriculum to include those e-cigarettes and the hookah-style information. What's on our list yet to do are the K-6 tobacco lessons as well as the high school. So those are revisions still yet to do. What we had done was disseminate this model policy for public comment. We did get 2 public comments. One was a person who said that they had used these products to help stop smoking cigarettes, and the other person was in favor. So there weren't a lot of public comments to work off of based on the information that we had presented before. So we're back for that final approval. Our next steps are to really go through, oops, somehow we lost that. To really go through our online materials that we have available to assure that it is completely everything is completely up to date with the new model policy. We have a tobacco-free schools planning guide that we will need to update and make sure that it includes all of these newer forms of tobacco. We do already have tobacco questions in the Michigan Profile for Healthy Youth for local administrators to be able to use for local data. So those are really the updates and comments regarding the policy, and we're hoping that we can answer any questions or address the policy approval.
I guess,
Can go through.
They said yes. I got them. The comments. So how did we disseminate for public comment? I know I disseminated to like some of the health departments, but I'm wondering if we got schools, if we got health departments, if we got some real life folks out there that gave us, or who are experiencing this, either at health departments or schools. How did we get input?
So our typical format for getting public comment like this out is through the Thursday communications, through the department. We also send it to the Department of Health and Human Services. They have a tobacco section that addresses, and they sent out through their listservs and their contact lists that they have for the various work that they do. We also send it to all of our regional school health coordinators. So we have school health coordinators around the state that do this type of work, and we sent it to them to send to their local districts and help encourage public comment.
Thank you, and thank you for this.
Of course.
So I'm curious, how does this impact online students who are, says functions on or off campus? Does that mean there can't be any smoking in their home if they're getting school online?
I don't think so. I mean, we have not had that concern brought to us.
Okay.
But
I just want to make sure I understand the scope of this. So that would not be considered on or off campus? I mean, I don't want it to. I mean, I have a concern with us dictating what goes on in the home,
We would not interpret it that way, and we wouldn't imagine any local school district interpreting it that way either. Yeah.
And then, so this is a tobacco-free, are any of the products that were listed here non-tobacco? I mean, are they, I've vapor product, I mean, I don't know where the line is. Is the line whatever the FDA calls tobacco products? I see that in here, but like tomorrow, something else might come out that is close but not quite, and I mean, I probably don't need to say this too loudly, but I mean, I fall on the side of, I know some of these things are actually useful for helping people stop smoking, or I also just feel that, so I mean, I know that they're not all evil necessarily. There could be some uses for some of these. So I just am wondering if some new product that comes out that's judged a little bit useful.
For kids?
No, for kids, for, it's on campus, and I don't know, I'm just wondering, where's the line? I guess what I'm asking, is it only tobacco products?
Yeah, so the tobacco product is defined in the policies to what those.
Right, but are they all, I mean,
the only difference is that the FDA has declined to begin to regulate vaping products as a tobacco product to date.
Okay, I just didn't know what falls under vapor product. Is there non-tobacco vapor products? I don't know.
I think there are products that contain THC now as part of it as well. So the focus is whether or not whatever it is includes nicotine would be considered a tobacco product.
Ms. Lougheed, did you have something?
We have a health teacher here with us.
Oh, Ms. Musselman, there you go.
So I was gonna-
Would you care to share?
Yeah.
Sure. I
and I'll share a couple of things. One, I'm
One of our
definitely-
regional teachers of the year, Ms. Crystalyn Musselman.
Hey, I teach health at Tecumseh High School. I'll introduce myself to you, I think, after lunch. But I just have a couple of things. One, I'm definitely in support of updating those Michigan model lessons. I think that's the best way to get that information. It's a really hard thing to teach about because the perception of harm is that vaping is healthier than smoking cigarettes. So vaping is a huge problem in I would say every single school in our state, especially at the high school level. I think kids are definitely vaping nicotine products. They are vaping THC. They just don't see the harm in it. So I do have one question. I know the MiFi survey, you mentioned that, and it does ask a question, and it refers to it as e-cigarettes in the question. Is there going to be a question that specifically calls out vaping or uses the word vaping? Because I feel like kids are saying vaping, not I'm using an e-cigarette.
Right.
So that was just a question I had. I'm not sure if that's something you're able to answer or.
So the microphone picks you up, please.
What they do with the tobacco section is they talk about electronic nicotine delivery systems, so ENDS, which is a broad category for e-cigarettes, vaping devices, all of those things kind of fall under that. So we can take a look at the MiFi questions to see how it's worded in there to see if we need to get it more broadly. I think YRBS does talk about vaping products and that kind of thing. So we can definitely look at that to make sure that we're encompassing
I
everything.
just need to get an accurate answer from them.
Right.
Their language.
Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
That's what.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But when it comes to what's kind of being listed in the policy, they talk about electronic nicotine delivery systems. So it's tobacco products and those non-tobacco delivery systems.
So are there delivery systems that are not nicotine? I mean, do they fill it with just kind of something
They
that's
can essentially fill it with anything they want. They can fill it with THC liquid. They can fill it with any kind of oil that can go into that vaping
So,
pen,
but a
vaping device.
non-THC, non-nicotine?
I'm not
And it-
sure what that would be.
Okay, I just don't know, I don't know either. Do they do
Yeah.
that, or?
I don't know what it would be
Okay.
put in there, but I'm sure they could figure something out. But
And that would be allowed if it was non-nicotine, non-THC?
I think that's why we wanted to cover this. We wanted to make sure these vaping products were in this policy for schools to be able to choose to put that in their policy if they wanted to. Again, this is a model policy,
Oh,
right?
this is
So
a
if they
model
don't
policy.
want to
Oh, yeah,
put
yeah.
these in, they can do this policy however they wanted. But we've been asked by schools to revise this.
Okay.
So they have an idea of which way to go to put these products in their policies. Because there's all sorts of different things that kids are doing now. They have ones that look like USB ports that they can plug right into their computers and charge while they're sitting in class.
But this isn't just for
So-
students, right? This is for all events?
Right, it's a
anytime.
24/7.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sidewalk.
But again, it's a model policy, so schools can
Okay.
do with it what they would like.
So to your point, it's student, staff, community.
Right.
That's right.
At football games, outdoor, anything?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
And,
Ms.
and
Tilly.
just to let you know how serious it is, the vaping issue in the prevention world, we actually pair vaping with marijuana. When we talk about it, when we go after funding, we put vaping and marijuana together.
There really is no way
Thank
of
you.
knowing what they have in those vaping devices.
Well, and they are pretty surreptitious at times. So, you see this periodically in a classroom.
Right. And some of them actually look like inhalers, so they can look like asthma inhalers, there are all sorts of things that you wouldn't even know that's what it is.
Cans, pop cans, yeah. You think it's a pop can and it's not.
It's crazy.
Other thoughts, reflections, Ms. Fecto?
Yeah, I mean, so the directive is just around tobacco. I, as a parent, have had a lot of issues around my kids thinking that marijuana is just fine because it's medical, it's okay, it's recreational, it's healthier than alcohol. I keep hearing that over and over again, and then they get drug tested and can't get a job, but then that's a whole other issue. But, but it also has health effects, and there's also negative consequences to smoking marijuana. Sucking anything down your lungs, I think, is probably a bad idea. But is there any discussion or any thoughts about, at some point, maybe not now, but including the effects of marijuana, especially for young people that are still developing? I think there's some research that shows it has some effects on the brain, especially before 21.
With the Michigan Model for Health, they are looking at those. That's part of it. When we do the revisions to add the vaping, the marijuana use is also going to be something that's going to be done at that same time. So it will be in the curriculum.
Okay, great, thanks.
Other, Ms. Snyder?
I'll be voting yes, just because I do think it's a significant issue for our kids. But one of the other updates for the whole child framework, I know that when we're talking about school health, it's a very, broad scope of topics. So it's not my endorsement of whole child in school health, on the whole spectrum. But this is a big issue, and it continues to be a big issue, even in the community above and beyond. My direct experience is that moms and babies are impacted greatly too in this topic. And there's an increase. It's not just, it's a genuine uptick that's happening. So we don't have enough research to decide whether or not this is really a safe policy for them.
Thank you very much. Ms. Tilley?
Why is it tobacco free as opposed to substance abuse free, basically?
So this policy just specifically covered tobacco, and now it covers vaping. So I think that would be a much broader policy than what we have here. If you put it under the heading of substance misuse.
Is there a policy for that?
I don't believe we have anything broad
The
like
board
that.
doesn't have a substance misuse policy.
And I know you mentioned marijuana being put in along with vaping. I think it should be substance abuse or substance misuse free. I don't know if that's something that we can work towards or not. I think it should be something.
I would think because tobacco has been something that was pounded in our head, that it was something legal and safe. That was the purpose of calling it tobacco. When we think about substance abuse, we think of no,
Illegal.
For adults and definitely not for children. So I would think that that's why we said tobacco. Of course, now marijuana has, somewhat been legalized, so maybe that's, but you wouldn't think of kids smoking.
There are issues though with kids using all kinds of drugs.
Right.
And even prescription drugs. So I think that we should cover the whole spectrum.
No, I agree. I'm just saying that something that has been.
And the perception of risk is low in
tobacco.
Tobacco, marijuana, vaping.
Right. I agree.
Not only for the kids, but for their parents as well. Because as MyFi data shows, that the parents also share some of those things. The kids actually get some of those things from the parents, whether it's prescription drugs, whether it's marijuana, whatever. Yeah.
Other thoughts or reflections by the board before we vote? Going once, twice. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Board, it is 11:43, and we are going to adjourn for lunch. We will pick it back up at 1 o'clock.